Hello, welcome to BMC Atrium Single Sign-On documentation video. In this video, we will see how to configure SAML 2.0 and integrate BMC Atrium Single Sign-On with a third-party identity provider, Active Directory Federation Services 2.0. Let us now walk through the steps for configuring SAML 2.0. These steps are quite simple. First, you must get the metadata certificate from the ADFS server. Next, configure the remote IDP using the BMC Atrium SSO tenant console. Ensure that BMC Remedy administrators have provided you the tenant console URL and the necessary login credentials. Then, configure your ADFS server. Finally, verify the configuration. Before you begin the configuration steps, ensure that the ADFS server is configured correctly and that you have integrated it with IIS and Active Directory. After you verify your ADFS server configuration, you are ready to start. Let us now see the steps for configuring SAML 2.0 in detail. The first step is to extract the ADFS certificate from the metadata file. For this purpose, open the IDP metadata file on the ADFS server and copy the file content into a new federation metadata.xml file on your computer. Delete the signature tag and the SPSSO descriptor tag from the file. From the same file, copy the URL provided in the location attribute of the single sign-on service binding tags as shown here and save it to a local file. Select the tag URL based on the SAML 2.0 binding that you are planning to use on the BMC Atrium SSO tenant console. You will use this URL when you configure remote IDP using the tenant console. Finally, copy the contents of the certificate tag as shown here and paste it into a new file. Save this file as imported cert from idp.cer. You will use this certificate when you configure remote IDP using the tenant console. The next step is to configure the remote IDP using the tenant console. Open the BMC Atrium SSO tenant console using the URL shown here. Ensure that you have entered the correct fully qualified domain name, FQDN and port number. Generally, the name of the RIM is your company name. If you cannot access the tenant console, verify the URL with the BMC Remedy administrator. After logging on to the tenant console, on the SAML console tab, enter the single sign-on URL. This URL is the IDP single sign-on service binding URL that you copied from the IDP metadata file. Based on the SAML 2.0 binding on the tenant console, select the single sign-on URL. Enter the final logout URL. This URL is the final URL that a user is redirected to after logging out of the application. Open the imported cert from IDP certificate that you created on the ADFS server and copy the details into a certificate field. Alternatively, you can upload the certificate file directly using the upload button. Before you close the tenant console, verify the details on the service provider tab. Click the View Metadata XML button on the Service Provider tab and copy the metadata URL. You will use this URL when you configure the ADFS server. Verify that the name ID is also selected. If you are passing the user ID by an attribute, select the Use Attribute option and enter the attribute name from the SAML 2.0 assertion. After you enter the necessary information, click Save. After you configure the remote IDP in the BMC Atrium SSO tenant console, the next step is to configure your ADFS server. You will need to establish a trust relationship between the ADFS server and the SSO server so that these servers can rely on each other for secure communication. For this, open the ADFS 2.0 management application on the ADFS server. Then, navigate to Trust Relationships and click Relying Party Trusts. Open the wizard by clicking the Add Relying Party Trust link in the Actions menu in the top right of the application. Select Import data about the relying party published online or on a local network option and enter the metadata XML URL that you saved from the tenant console into the highlighted field. Note: if you see a warning, you can ignore it. However, if you are not able to proceed with the configuration, the certificates are not exchanged correctly, you must contact the BMC Remedy administrator for more information. Type the display name as SP and add an appropriate description. Select Permit all users to access this relying party and complete the configuration in the wizard. Before you close the wizard, clear the Open Claim Rules checkbox. After you close the Add Relying Party Trust wizard, the Relying Party Trust appears in the ADFS management application. Add the secure hash algorithm by modifying the SP. Right-click SP and select the secure hash SHA-1 algorithm on the Advanced tab. The next task is to add the claim rules from the Edit Claim Rules dialog box. Select SP, click Edit Claim Rules and then click Add Rule. Select the claim rule template as Send LDAP attribute as claims and enter the claim rule attributes. Similarly, add a second and third rule using the Add Rule button and select the claim rule template as Send Claims using Custom Rule. These rules are slightly different from the first rule, as you must copy a script when you create these rules. Create these rules as shown here. After you create the claim rules, close the wizard. You have successfully configured the ADFS server for authentication. The last step is to verify that your configuration is complete and that the user can authenticate and access the relevant BMC application. If the links displayed here allow you to open the application, you have successfully configured BMC Atrium Single Sign-On as an SP and ADFS server as an IDP. These links are templates. You must enter your SSO URL and your ADFS server URL to verify the configuration. I hope that this video will help you to configure SAML 2.0 with ADFS 2.0 as the IDP. For detailed information, visit the BMC online documentation portal at docs.bmc.com. Thank you.